Welcome back to Midnight Movie Club and my review of A Quiet Place Part 2. A Quiet Place Part 2 was written and directed by John Krasinski, returning once again from the first to direct, write and star once more. And the film follows Evelyn, trying to keep her kids alive in this crazy world. And in this world, they now have to leave their farmhouse. They have to go off of the sand trails and into the unknown to find other survivors, other people like them, and to try find once again a sanctuary where she can bring her kids up and keep them safe. Krasinski was totally on his own here with this one. The characters are based off of the characters of Bex and Woods from the first film, but he is the sole writer to this project, and honestly all I can say is, yes, I want more movies from John Krasinski. The guy just knows exactly what he is doing. To kick off this review, we really do need to talk about the opening. The opening for A Quiet Place Part 2 is nothing short of amazing, and I could have watched even more of it. I was almost upset when time jumped forward again and we had to leave that prequel scene. I almost forgot that we had went back in time. I was honestly that invested in what was going on. And the direction itself from Krasinski once again is just fantastic. He just shows that he's very capable when it comes to writing short but powerful scripts, full of suspense and great character moments. And there is a lot of monster action in this one, a lot more than there was in the first. But even when there is lots of, crazy monster violence going on, the focus is always on the characters. And that's what makes these tense, horrific action-filled scenes so bloody engaging. By now we all know what the monsters look like, so their fear factor is pretty much completely gone, but their full devastating potential here is on display, and the fear comes from the characters and how attached we are to them and how invested we are in their arcs and where we want to eventually see them end up in this world. And while we are touching on characters, we have to talk about the actors behind those performances. Emily Blunt, once again as Evelyn, is fantastic. She just always brings it. There's not much else you need to say about Emily Blunt. She's a fantastic actor, and here it's no different. Millicent Simmons returns again as Reagan, and I really, really love her character. And she actually had a big chunk of runtime to take up here, and in some places really carried the whole movie on her shoulders. She just put in a really badass performance and once again was fantastic. Noah Jupe once again coming back as Marcus. He just always puts in a shift when it comes to looking absolutely terrified and pissing his pants, and once again he's great in A Quiet Place Part 2 just like the first film. And I really liked Marcus's character arc in this film. Honestly, I think he has the biggest and most satisfying arc out of everyone in the film. Even though he doesn't really have much to do, he's one of the characters that gets a little bit more sidelined in this one, but what they end up doing with him and where he ends up by the end of the film, it was very satisfying the way it ended for him, and just the way they done it. I won't say too much because I don't want to go into spoilers. I always keep my reviews spoiler free, but just know that Marcus, he can be a bit of a fuckhead and a bit annoying at times in this, but in the end his character arc is pretty awesome. Then we have to talk about Cillian Murphy, who's this brand new character, Emmett. I really, really liked what they done with him. His connection with the family, the Abbotts, and how he, had that dialogue with them, how they had conflicting views on this world. And I really, really enjoyed his relationship with Reagan, Millicent Simmons' character. He almost kind of steps in as the father protective figure here, even though he's very reluctant to. And I really liked that about him. He had this kind of anti-hero aura around him, and I just really, really liked the direction they took him in. The dialogue in places is sublime, and between Emmett and Reagan there's some very nuanced performances in there and moments that are really, really heart-touching, and once again might be taking some tears for you just like the first film. This film obviously takes us away from the farm. As I said, it takes us off those sand trails from the first, and I really liked how they opened up the world, expanding on the rules and the lore and all of that stuff. And what I was really extremely happy about was that, yes, there was bad humans in here, but they were not the focus. Even when they came in, they weren't around for long, which was a breath of fresh air. The aliens are and always will be the main threat in A Quiet Place. And I couldn't tell you how happy I am about that, because when we saw those first trailers and they were saying, the people who are left aren't worth saving, I was like, oh no, it's going to go the Walking Dead route and it's just going to be terrible. But no, don't worry. I was actually very, skeptical going into this film. The first film was such a great high concept horror. It was always going to be hard to follow up. But I actually enjoyed part 2 way better than part 1. I personally thought A Quiet Place was a one-trick pony, and I wasn't too sure how they were going to pull off a sequel, but I'm very, very happy to report that I was proved wrong, and it's got many more tricks up its sleeve. The cinematography in this film as well is fantastic once again, just like the first, and there are a lot of long takes that just immerse you in the world and make you feel closer to the characters and their actions, just their everyday life and all the little things that they have to do here or there to survive. Set and costume design are once again on point, as we see a lot more of this destroyed world that A Quiet Place takes place in, and I loved seeing all this destruction. You see things torn up, ripped up, scratches here or there, and you just start building all these wee stories in your head, doing the world building for the film itself on your own with your own imagination, and I love that. I love things not being spelled out to us and just seeing things and putting two and two together and figuring it out on your own. I really do like that. The CGI as well for the monsters is brilliant. We see them in broad day a lot, and they still look fantastic. In the first film, we mostly see them at night, but in here you see them broad day, in water, out of water, a lot of different locations, and they always look fantastic. And we see a lot more movement from them and just genuinely how they hunt, and I love that. I'm a big creature feature guy, so yeah, I just loved seeing more of them and more of how they actually operate, instead of them just quickly flashing past the camera and jumping out for a quick jump scare. It was far more tense in a lot of the chase scenes and a lot of the slower moments, because we did just see them and we heard them, and it just drew it out a little bit longer, and we just got a little bit more time with them. I really like that they just went, what, everyone's seen the monsters, let's just throw them right in right away, and just let them have at it. That was brilliant. The movie itself was almost like a mix of like a road movie and a siege movie at the same time, and I really liked that. All character motivations as well are, very natural, seem very, very realistic, and there's a lot of heart-touching moments in here. Like I said before, there is a couple of points where characters make dumb decisions. I won't say who or when, but there's just a couple that are a little bit annoying, but they are needed to keep that narrative moving forward and keeping things tense, but I will say they do pay off in the end when what happens. You'll get it once you see it. One thing though that I did find a little bit annoying was when it would constantly cut from one tense action scene to another, as they both just sort of happened to take place at the same time. I mean, it was never annoying enough to absolutely take me out of it. For the most part, the editing in the film and scenes feel very natural and flow into one another with ease, and we're always moving forward, we're never really moving back. Krasinski's scripts are just, very lean, very mean. They get to the point and they do what they say on the tin, but there was a couple of parts in here where, they'd cut from one thing happening in one location to another thing at a different location, and I would just be like, no, focus on this one thing now, then we can go back to that, instead of, intercutting constantly. That was just one little nitpick I had with it. I would like to comment on the music. As you know, I always like talking about music in my reviews for the films, as I feel like soundtracks are super important. But here, I actually can't remember what the soundtrack was like at all. I think I was just that invested in the characters and the visuals that I wasn't really listening to any music in the background. In most of the film here, you know, it is all usually diegetic noise. You know, you hear what the characters are hearing. You know, the audio in these films is so important, since it's a film that's whole concept is about having to be quiet because these monsters hunt by sound. And once again, the sound design is absolutely bloody fantastic. And I love those moments where it dips in and out of us hearing what Reagan hears since she's deaf, and then hearing what everyone else hears. And they just use it to brilliant effect. It just makes certain scenes even more tense. So yeah, basically A Quiet Place Part 2 builds on everything A Quiet Place Part 1 done well, and in my humble opinion actually surpasses the first, which is insane for a high concept horror sequel. I never thought I'd be saying that. I was super skeptical going into this one, but I came out absolutely loving it. I really did have a good time with it. It does everything that it does very well. I mean, there's nothing that's absolutely super exceptional, out of this world, insane that we've never seen before maybe, but just everything it does so well. So with all that said and done, I'm going to give A Quiet Place Part 2 a 4.5 out of 5 rating. If you've seen A Quiet Place Part 2, please do let me know what you made of it in the comment section down below. And if you enjoyed this review, then please do leave it a like. Honestly, I can't wait to get this one on Blu-ray or 4K and just straight up watch it back to back with the first. I'm really looking forward to doing a double feature with this one. But yeah, if you're new here, make sure to subscribe to join the club. And as always, thank you very much for watching, and good night.